Some children are loved equally, and some are not. In this house, love had a direction: clear, obvious, painful. For Kareem, there was only one child that mattered: his eldest son. Strong, smart, confident, the perfect child. At least that's what he believed. And then there was the second one. Quiet, gentle, different. His name, Yusuf. From the beginning, something felt off. Not for Yusuf, but for Kareem. "He's too weak," Kareem said once, watching him. Without warmth, without patience, without understanding. His wife tried to speak. "He's just different," she said softly, but Kareem shook his head. "No," he replied. "He needs to be stronger." But what he didn't see was that strength comes in many forms. Yusuf stood there, listening, quietly, because he was used to it. The comparisons, the silence, the distance. His brother received praise, encouragement, attention, and Yusuf received expectations and disappointment. Even when he tried, even when he improved, even when he did everything right, it was never enough. "Why can't you be like your brother?" Kareem asked one day. Simple question, but heavy. Very heavy. Yusuf didn't answer, not because he didn't have words, but because he didn't know how. How do you become someone else? How do you earn love that was never given? And in that moment, something changed. Not outside, inside, because sometimes a child doesn't stop trying. They stop expecting. At first, he tried harder. Much harder, woke up earlier, studied longer, spoke less, listened more, because he believed something simple: if I become better, he will love me. That hope kept him going. For a while. But no matter what he did, nothing changed. His brother got praise. "Good job. I'm proud of you. You'll go far." Simple words, but powerful. Words Yusuf never heard, not once. Even when he succeeded, even when he improved, even when he tried his best, Kareem would only say, "You can do better." Or worse, say nothing at all. Silence can hurt more than criticism, because silence means you don't matter. One evening, Yusuf came home with good news: a high score, the best he ever got. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from hope. "Dad?" he said softly. Kareem looked up. "What is it?" Yusuf showed the paper. "I got the highest mark." Silence. A moment. A chance. But Kareem only nodded. "Your brother did that last year," he said, and went back to his work. That was it. No smile, no pride, no recognition, just comparison. Again. And in that moment, something inside Yusuf quietly broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. Because hope can only survive for so long. After that day, he stopped. Not living, not studying, not trying. He stopped expecting, because expecting hurt more than anything. Yusuf still woke up early, still went to school, still did everything he was supposed to do. But something inside him was different, quieter, colder, empty. Not because he didn't care, but because he learned caring didn't change anything. At home, nothing changed. His brother still received praise, still received attention, still received love. And Yusuf remained invisible, even when he was right there. One evening, his mother sat beside him. She noticed. Of course she did. Mothers always do. "Why are you so quiet these days?" she asked gently. Yusuf smiled slightly. "I've always been quiet," he replied. But this time, it was different, because now his silence had meaning. His mother looked at him, carefully, as if trying to understand something he wasn't saying. "You can talk to me," she said. Soft, warm, safe. Yusuf nodded, but didn't speak, because some things are too deep for words. Some feelings are too heavy to explain, and some wounds don't show on the outside. That night, he sat alone, looking at the ceiling, thinking, not about his father, not about his brother, but about himself. "Maybe I don't need it," he whispered. Love, approval, attention. Maybe he didn't need any of it. Maybe he could be enough on his own. And in that moment, he made a quiet decision. He wouldn't chase love anymore. He would build himself without it. Because sometimes, when love is not given, people learn to live without it. He didn't wait anymore. Not for approval, not for praise, not for love. Yusuf changed his direction from people to purpose, from expectations to discipline. He woke up early, not to impress anyone, but to improve himself. He studied, not for recognition, but for growth. He worked, not for approval, but for a future. And slowly, something powerful began to form, not loud, not visible, but real. Strength. The kind of strength that doesn't need attention, that doesn't depend on others, that grows in silence. Years passed, and Yusuf became different, focused, calm, sharp. While others talked, he listened. While others rested, he worked. While others waited, he moved. Not fast, but forward, always forward. His teachers noticed, his results improved, his confidence grew, not from words, but from actions, real effort. One day, he stood in front of a mirror, not as a child, but as a young man. He looked at himself, long, carefully, then said quietly, "I don't need anyone to believe in me." Pause. "I believe in myself." And that changed everything. Because sometimes the strongest people are the ones who had no one to rely on and still found a way. Years passed, quietly, without noise, without announcement. Life moved forward, and so did Yusuf, but not in a way anyone noticed, not at home, not in his father's eyes, because Kareem was still focused on one person, the elder son, the perfect one, the one he believed in, the one he invested in, the one he trusted. At least, that's what he thought. Meanwhile, Yusuf built his life, step by step, without help, without support, without recognition. He worked, learned, improved, failed, tried again, and again, and again. And so failure no longer stopped him, because he understood something. No one was coming. No one was saving him. No one was choosing him. So he chose himself, and that made all the difference. One day, he stood in front of a building, tall, modern, powerful, his reflection in the glass, calm, confident, different. He walked inside, not as a guest, not as a visitor, but as someone who belonged there, because he built it from nothing, from silence, from pain, from himself. People greeted him with respect, with recognition, with something he never had at home, value, real value. And in that moment, he didn't feel proud. He felt complete, because he didn't need anyone else to tell him who he was. He already knew. At first, everything looked perfect. The elder son had everything: support, attention, confidence, and most importantly, his father's belief. Kareem invested in him, time, money, energy, because in his mind, this was the future. "This is my pride," he said once, looking at him, certain, unshakable. But life doesn't follow expectations. It follows reality, and reality is never perfect. At first, small mistakes, ignored, excused, justified. "He's still learning," Kareem said. Then, bigger problems, missed responsibilities, bad decisions, wrong company. Still ignored, still excused, still protected. Because sometimes too much comfort creates weakness, and weakness grows quietly until it becomes a problem. One day, everything changed. A failure, big, public, unavoidable. The elder son stood there, lost, confused, unprepared, because he never learned how to stand alone, how to fail, how to recover, because someone always stood in front of him, protected him, carried him, and now there was no one. Kareem watched, silent, shocked, because for the first time he saw something clearly. The son he believed in was not ready, not strong, not independent, not what he imagined. And the son he ignored became everything he needed. That realization was heavy, very heavy, because sometimes the truth doesn't come slowly. It comes all at once, and it changes everything. For the first time, Kareem was quiet, not thinking about success, not thinking about plans, but about truth, real truth. And that truth had a name: Yusuf, the son he ignored, the son he compared, the son he never truly saw. He sat alone, remembering, not the good moments, but the missed ones. Every time Yusuf tried, every time he spoke, every time he waited for something simple, a word, a look, a sign that he mattered. And every time Kareem failed, not loudly, not intentionally, but repeatedly, because neglect doesn't need effort, it just needs absence. And he was absent even when he was there. One evening, he saw Yusuf again, not as before, not as the weaker one, but as someone else, someone strong, calm, independent, different. And that difference shocked him. When did he become like this? He thought. But deep inside, he knew the answer. While he was looking at one son, the other was building himself, silently, alone, without him. That realization hurt more than anything, because now he saw everything, not who Yusuf was before, but who he became without him. And that was the hardest part. It wasn't sudden. It didn't happen in one day. That distance was built slowly, silently, over years, word by word, moment by moment, missed by him, but felt by Yusuf. Now it was visible, clear, unavoidable. Kareem stood in the same house, the same walls, the same rooms, but something was missing. Connection, real connection. He saw Yusuf walking past him, calm, respectful, but distant, not cold, not rude, just far. Kareem said, his voice uncertain, unfamiliar. Yusuf stopped, turned. Yes? Simple, respectful, but not warm. Kareem hesitated because for the first time, he didn't know how to speak, didn't know how to reach, didn't know how to fix what he broke. "How are you?" he asked. Basic, late, but real. "I'm fine," Yusuf replied. Short, calm, complete. No explanation, no emotion, no opening, just an answer. And that answer said everything. Because when someone says, "I'm fine," without looking at you, It means they learned to be okay without you. And that is distance. Not physical, emotional, deep, hard to cross. Kareem nodded slowly, but inside, something collapsed. Because now, he didn't just lose connection, he lost a chance to be a father. It didn't happen suddenly, not from guilt, not from pressure, but from realization. Real, deep, unavoidable realization. Kareem stood outside Yusuf's office for a long time, not entering, not leaving, just standing. Because sometimes the hardest step is the first one. Finally, he knocked. A simple sound, but heavy, very heavy. "Come in," a calm voice said. Kareem opened the door and saw him. Not the boy he remembered, but a man. Strong, confident, focused. Everything he once expected from another son. "Dad," Yusuf said, respectful but distant. Kareem stepped inside, slowly, carefully, as if afraid to break something. "I wanted to talk," he said, uncertain, unusual, because he was never like this before. Yusuf nodded. "Sit," he said, calm, neutral, not emotional, just polite. Kareem sat down. Silence filled the room, not uncomfortable, but heavy, because both of them knew this wasn't just a conversation. This was years trying to speak. "I was wrong," Kareem said. Direct. No excuse, no explanation, just truth. Yusuf didn't react immediately. He just listened. "I didn't see you," Kareem continued, his voice lower now. "I compared you. I ignored you. I failed you." Each word real, honest, late, very late. Silence. Then Yusuf spoke, calm, measured. "You didn't fail me." Kareem looked up, surprised. "You just weren't there." That sentence cut deeper than anything, because sometimes absence is worse than failure. The room felt still, not silent, but heavy, because now words mattered more than ever. Kareem looked at Yusuf, waiting, not for forgiveness, but for something, anything that could fix this. But Yusuf didn't rush, didn't react emotionally, didn't soften the moment, because this wasn't something small. This was years, years of absence, years of silence, years of being unseen. "You don't understand something," Yusuf said calmly. Kareem leaned forward, listening, carefully. "When I was young," pause, "I needed you." Silence. Not loud, but powerful. "I needed your words, your support, your presence." Each word simple, but heavy. "And you weren't there." Kareem lowered his eyes, because he knew every word was true. "I waited," Yusuf continued, "for a long time, thinking maybe one day you would see me." Silence. But that day never came. Those words closed something, not loudly, but finally. And that's what hurt. Not the pain, but the finality. "So I stopped waiting," Yusuf said. Calm, not angry, not emotional, just real. "And when I stopped waiting, I started building myself." Kareem looked up, slowly, because now he understood something. Yusuf didn't become strong because of him. He became strong despite him. And that difference was everything. "I'm not angry," Yusuf added. And that made it worse, because anger can be fixed. Distance is harder. Kareem didn't speak, not because he had nothing to say, but because everything he could say felt too late, too small, too empty. He sat there, looking at Yusuf, but not really seeing him because now he was looking at the past. Every moment, every mistake, every silence, every word he didn't say, every time he turned away. And now those moments returned, not as memories, but as truth, sharp, clear, unavoidable. "I thought I was doing right," he whispered, almost to himself. "I thought I was building a strong son." Silence. But I ignored the one who was becoming strong. That realization was heavy, very heavy, because sometimes people don't realize their mistakes until they see the result, and by then, it's already done. Kareem looked at Yusuf again, but this time, he didn't see the child he ignored. He saw a man who didn't need him, a man who didn't depend on him, a man who moved forward without him. And that was the hardest truth. For years, he thought something simple: my son needs me, as guidance, as support, as a father. But now, that belief was gone, completely. Yusuf stood there, calm, stable, independent, not searching, not waiting, not needing anything. And that was the truth. Not loud, not aggressive, but clear, painfully clear. Kareem watched him, trying to find something, a sign, a need, a reason to still matter. But he couldn't, because Yusuf already built everything without him: his life, his strength, his identity, everything. And in that moment, Kareem realized something. He didn't lose his son today. He lost him years ago, slowly, quietly, when he chose not to see him, when he chose not to hear him, when he chose someone else again and again. "I wanted to be part of your life," Kareem said, softly, his voice weaker now, more honest. But late, very late. Yusuf looked at him, not cold, not angry, just real. "You could have been," he said, simple, clear, final. Back then. Those two words carried everything. Back then, when it mattered, when it could change something, when it could build something. But now, that moment was gone, and no one can go back. There are mistakes you can fix, and there are mistakes you have to live with. Kareem now knew which one this was. He walked slowly, not thinking about the future, not planning anything, because for the first time, he had nothing to plan, nothing to fix, nothing to change, only something to accept: the truth. He sat alone, the same chair, the same room, but not the same man, because now he understood everything. Not what he did, but what he didn't do. He didn't listen. He didn't support. He didn't see. And that was enough to lose everything. "I didn't lose him today," he whispered. "I lost him years ago." Silence. Because sometimes the biggest loss happens slowly. So slowly you don't even notice it until it's gone, completely. And when you finally understand, there's nothing left to fix, nothing left to change, only something left to carry: regret. Heavy, constant, unavoidable. Because time doesn't go backwards, it only moves forward, leaving everything else behind. There comes a moment when you stop trying, not because you don't care, but because you finally understand some things can't be changed. Kareem reached that moment, not suddenly, but slowly, through silence, through memory, through truth. He stopped thinking about what if, stopped imagining a different past, stopped wishing for another chance, because now he knew there was no second version of this life, no reset, no return, only acceptance, real acceptance. He walked through his home, every room, every corner, every memory, and saw it clearly, what he built and what he lost, not by accident, but by choice, his choice. I can't change it, he said quietly, not with anger, not with frustration, but with understanding. And that understanding brought something unexpected, peace, not happiness, not joy, but peace, because sometimes accepting the truth is the only way forward. In the end, nothing dramatic happened. No sudden change, no perfect reunion, no second chance. Just truth and the life it left behind. Kareem didn't fix everything because he couldn't. Some things can't be fixed. Some moments don't come back. And some relationships change forever. But something inside him did change. Not his past, not his mistakes, but his understanding. He no longer compared, no longer judged, no longer expected, because now he finally saw what matters. Not perfection, not strength, not success, but presence, love, attention, the small things that build everything. Yusuf continued his life, strong, independent, successful, not because he was loved, but because he learned how to live without it, and that made him unbreakable. Kareem watched from a distance, not as a father who guided, but as someone who learned too late. And sometimes that is the hardest lesson, not losing something, but realizing you had it all along and didn't see it. If this story made you think, don't wait to show love to your children, because one day they might stop waiting for it. And when that happens, no success, no time, no regret can bring that moment back. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because sometimes the hardest stories teach the most important truths.